What you're seeing here is some footage. Credit to Spetsna 007, this Russian account, for posting this. They're saying the Russian Air Force with love to Al Qaeda in Mali. Of the thousands that stormed the cities, thousands of them have been killed by the Malayan Army and Russian African Corps. So, just want to point out, if you're a little confused, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are all under consistent attack from the Al Qaeda remnants in Africa because these countries refuse to hand over their natural resources to Western powers. So the proxies of these powers are Al Qaeda. This is not a conspiracy. This is a fact. This is what has been done since the 1980s. I will bring up some references. You'll see in this post here from Ethan Levins. Al Qaeda militants are battling Russian forces currently in Mali. This is the same Russia, by the way, that's fighting to free eastern towns in the east of Ukraine. They are literally also in Africa, helping this country, which is in an emergency state because of the attacks by this terrorist group. JNIM was an Al Qaeda affiliate, and they launched this offensive against the Mali capital. They're trying to take it over. They killed one of their generals today, or the defense minister today. American and NATO forces have declined to help battle the terrorists. Just so you see that, the the Americans and the NATO allies, who are all up in arms about, oh, Iran's the biggest state sponsor of terror and all this stuff, they don't want to fight the actual terrorists on the ground in Africa. Well, wait a minute. I thought you guys hated Al Qaeda. Isn't Al Qaeda the terrorist group that attacked us on 9/11? Didn't they bomb an embassy before that? No, we don't have any interest in fighting them. Well, that's odd. So we don't want to fight them? Does it have anything to do with the fact that Mali refuses to be owned by the French, and the French are part of NATO? Does that have anything to do with it?
When ISIS warriors are injured in battle, where are they transported? They're transported, for heaven's sake, to Israel. They're treated by the Israelis in Israeli hospitals and brought back to battle. We created ISIS. I mean, ISIS is no less than the people up in Islamberg, no less than Gulen, is a CIA creation. John McCain, for heaven's sake, was over there with the ISIS officials. It's our creation. We create them. We still direct them.
Plenty of the rebels have acknowledged that they've been supported by Israel, and they've thanked Israel for helping them throughout. In fact, arms are oftentimes caught. Israeli arms are caught on en route to the rebel groups.
So that's the U.S. Okay, that's the U.S. So the reason why these people do not want to, they're not getting any support. All right, and some smart posts here, because Al Qaeda is CIA. Quite obvious when you look at who's the leader of Syria now, and how that came about. Yep, exactly. We're shaking the hands and groveling for this freaking Al Qaeda leader who's the president of Syria now. That tells you all you need to know about whose side we're on. And Without History, which is a great channel, which is mainly focused on historical, ancient civilization connections. Just an excellent channel. Let me read you their post. All these countries are involved in the recent attacks against Mali. The Mauritanian motorcycles, the Mauritanian nationals in the attackers, to be confirmed by their faces, you can clearly see. Ivorian radar and communication, Nigeria and French money. Don't get Nigeria and Niger mixed up. Niger is not part of that. North Benin Islamists. France recently installed a long-range radar in Ivory Coast for quote-unquote weather. Mauritania president just a week ago visited Macron. I am not sure about Algeria yet. We need to wait for more evidence. Africa has a long history of being conquered and dominated by the Europeans. In the late 19th century, Africa, what I call really the First World War, Africa was invaded by almost every imperialist Western European country at the same time in a coordinated attack to divide up the country. Okay? The reason that the French are upset with these Sahel countries is because Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have united not only for infrastructure, but refusing to hand over their natural resources to the French. So this hurts the French because A, they want access to the rare earth minerals, they want access to the uranium, and they want access to the oil. Remember, not only is France in a tough spot in the EU because of the war in Ukraine, they don't have access to Russian oil and liquid natural gas anymore, but France runs heavily on nuclear power, which requires uranium. Well, there's uranium there. So, and then on top of that, Germany and Britain and the United States and every other Western country that has been overly involved in Africa, they don't want to see more African countries turning away from the West to shake hands with the Russians and, for that matter, with the Chinese. Okay? So they are trying to slow down that trend. And now they're doing it by force, by using proxies, terrorist proxies, to attack these countries. Now, France would be better off if they would just make a deal with these countries. And it's the same thing with the entire EU and the United States. If you trade with these countries, if you shake their hands and you do good, solid business with them, that's the best way to be competitive with the Chinese and the Russians. The Chinese and the Russians are so much better at this now because they don't have the history of colonialism and they have a credibility in their reputation for actually building infrastructure. So even if there's a financial deal that goes the wrong way, you get a railroad out of it. You get a bridge, you get a tunnel. There's physical infrastructure being added. There's value being added. What the US and the Western powers do is they come to these countries with a spreadsheet. They have them hooked in on their financial system where they need the lifeline. It's like a drug addict that needs access to more drugs. The drug dealer's not your friend. The drug dealer's the one that got you hooked. Now that you're hooked on the drugs, you look at the drug for the quick hit to make you feel better in the short term. That's what these African countries need to get away from. Okay? Now, it's easier said than done. But realistically, this is the state of the African continent right now. It's a battle between the countries that are starting to realize, like Namibia, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, among others, that they are better off, okay? Madagascar, right? That they are better off without being subjugated by the West. Now, working people in the West, why should you care? Well, one, you should be upset that the United States and NATO are supporting or at minimum seem very shoulder shrug disinterested in fighting terrorists, okay? The terrorists that attacked us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as I've said many times on this channel, you are better off, okay, if your country can stop engaging in imperialism and is forced to invest in its own natural resources, is forced to invest in its own population. The more that these countries have access to other people's populations to exploit, to other countries' resources to extract, to other countries to subjugate them through a financial system, that puts you in a position of weakness as an individual and a citizen and a working class person in your country. Unless you own the corporations that are going to suck out all the resources of these other countries, then you don't benefit from this, pal. You don't benefit from the empire. Everybody would be better off if they would stand up to their government and say no more imperialism, no more violation of people's rights. And that's just on that factor. Obviously, on a moral factor, it's not okay to walk into someone's home, beat the hell out of them, and take their stuff and say, well, I did it because I could. That's not okay. That's chaos. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to all fight against. Let's respect each other. And let's send a prayer and send whatever support we can to Mali as they fight the good fight. And credit to Vladimir Putin and credit to the Russians and anybody else who's willing to help them. Credit to them. Because unlike the narrative in the Western media The Russians are the ones defending this country in the face of the terrorists that killed thousands of Americans. Meanwhile, we're sitting there pointing our fingers at Iran, wasting energy and supplying other countries with the resources to kill innocent people all across the Middle East. What a disgrace.